Hey everybody, this is Andres with the Graphic Shack here in beautiful Ramona, California. And today I'm gonna tell you why I gotta remake a screen.
Why do you gotta redo it? I mean, it looked pretty good to me, but you tell me.
It looks good, and sometimes looks can be deceiving. This one, I mean, this is back print, just a free 99 knowledge. We got 2 images on one screen, so sometimes you can get away with it. Sometimes you have to use 2 screens. The issue here is the left chest print. Down here, mainly here, the E and the N and a little bit of the A. So M-E-A-N, it's a little bit, it's not as clean and sharp as it is over here on the other part, or on the top letters. The top letters over here are super nice and clean and crisp. Down here in the bottom, over here, the first 3 letters are not as clean and crisp as we need them to be. The emulsion just didn't rinse off as well as we wanted it to rinse off. So when we go to print it, the letters are gonna be cut off. So it's not gonna look as good. Maybe, you know, some people won't know. The customer may or may not notice it, but you don't wanna put product out like that.
So it's more for you than the customer. You think the customer will notice or nah?
Honestly, I personally don't think so. What we're gonna do is we'll print a sample shirt with this so you guys can see the difference. And the customer should be picking these bad boys up today. So we'll give him a sample. We'll see if he notices. You guys can be the judge, okay? But for me personally, I don't wanna put it out like that. So I'm gonna remake the screen, print it the way it should be printed, because you wanna have a good product. Otherwise, word gets around. So now we gotta go get this other screen burned. So let's go ahead, join me, and I'll show you how I do it.
All right, Andres, where we at, man? What you doing?
We're right here in what we call the lab. Now we're right here at my parents' house. Although I do have a shop, as you guys can see, it's very small. So I do all the screen burning and preparing here at my parents' house. So that's where we're at right now. We're gonna make this screen since we messed up the other one.
And what software are you using for the graphics?
For this, I'm gonna use Inkscape. I use Inkscape a lot. That's how when I first started doing t-shirts, I learned on Inkscape, which is a free version of Illustrator. And that's what I use most of the time.
And what kind of printer for the transparency?
This is a really good printer. I think I've had about 3 or 4 printers in my whole lifetime for transparency printing. And the best one that I've had is this one, which is the Canon IX6820. It's 13 inches wide, so it's a wide format. And then the length is, even you could put a roll on there if you wanted to.
All right, Andres, we're in your burning room?
This is the burning room. This is the lab. This is where the magic really happens.
Nice. So, what do you have over here?
We have a amber light, which is what you need. So when you're burning your screens or coating your screens, the regular light bulbs will expose your emulsion. So in order to avoid that, you want to have special light. So this is an amber light. This is an antique. This deserves to be in a museum somewhere. This is Rionet's RXP, just their basic exposure unit. I got this probably 15 years ago.
Hey, but still kicking?
It's still kicking. I never had any issues with it. The kind of prints that I do at my shop, I don't really need anything super fancy with the LEDs and all that. So if you're on a budget, I mean, get anything that's basic. Process is we're gonna have our screen. So we have our screen already coated. We're gonna tape our image or transparency onto the screen. And then we're gonna put a dark foam in the screen to make sure that we have good contact with the screen and the transparency itself. Then we're gonna put that onto the actual exposure unit. We're gonna press this, or not press, we're gonna turn it on. And I think I have it set for about 2.5 minutes, and then we'll wash it off, put it out in the sun so it can dry, and we're good to start printing.
Let me ask you, have you ever printed a design backwards by accident?
Yeah, not on an actual shirt, but I have exposed or burned a screen. I get to the shop, I set it up, I print the sample, and I'm like, damn it, it's backwards. So yeah, it's happened many times.
What do you do to prevent that? You just double check it?
Yeah, so what I have done to prevent it from happening now is, now the program, when I print on that Canon printer, you can choose the type of paper that you're gonna print on. So I always click on t-shirt transfers, and it'll print the image in reverse already. So I don't have to think about it.
How do you know where to put it?
This is gonna be a left chest print. So we want the image to be somewhere in the top portion of the screen itself. So we gotta keep in mind that when we are printing, you're squeegeeing that way So the image needs to be on this left-hand side. So that's where we want to put it, somewhere in the top part. So now we're just gonna tape this up. The transparency, if you can see, if it lifts up, there's air that can go in there, light can sneak in, and it also leaves a little shadow. So there's chances that you're gonna expose areas of the screen that you don't want to be exposed. So we want this to be as tight to the actual screen as we can make it. And that's where we're gonna also put in some weights, as you're gonna see in a minute. Now, we've got our image, upper left-hand corner, so that when we go print, we're gonna squeegee that way. Put this onto our exposure unit. We're gonna just rub your hand through it like that so that you make sure you have no gaps between the screen and the transparency. We'll put this black foam on here. This is just to keep light from sneaking in. To add some pressure to make sure that the transparency stays tight against the screen, we're gonna put just something flat so we can add some weights. These are 10 pounds here. So a total of 20 pounds. And now that we're all set, we're just gonna, I already have this set, it's set for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So the time that you put it on your exposure unit will depend and will vary based on your actual emulsion that you use and based on your unit. All right, so now we're gonna take off all the weights.
Hot.
It's hot. Take this off. Put it right here. So we want to get both sides wet a little bit, just so that the emulsion starts to soften up. If you see when you wet it and you see the image start to show up, that's a good sign. That's a sign that it was properly burned. Once you've let it soften up a little bit and you're not too sure if it's ready to be washed out, I like to just rub it a little bit with my hands like this, and then the other side. And you can feel that it's the emulsion's coming off right there. So that means it's pretty much good to go. If you do use a pressure washer, don't be right here because you're gonna blow it out. So it's better to start out from the back and move yourself closer as you need it.
All right, Andres, and how do you dry your screens?
So once it's all burned and ready to go, just bring it outside. And you put it out there, and if it's a nice sunny day, you just throw it out there and it'll be ready in about 5 minutes. I'll be working at night, so what I do then is if I need the screen in the morning, I'll put a fan on them and just leave them overnight with the fan. If I don't need them the next day, then I'll just leave them lined up in the garage, and then the next day whenever I get back to the garage, I'll put them away. Make sure you don't turn the lights on though. Make sure you put a note. What I do is I put a note on the door and say, hey, don't turn lights on. So my family knows not to come in the garage. All right, guys, so that's the process of how I burn my screens here at the Graffix Shack. Let me know what you guys think. You have any questions, comments? How do you burn your screens? I want to know. Put it in the comments below. I want to know exactly how you guys do your screens, how you do it. And maybe you can relate to my scenario. Keep in mind that hopefully it's, for motivation. You don't need the fanciest equipment. You don't need the fanciest, laboratory setup. If you got a small little space, little garage, little side room, you can make it happen. And if you want to see any more t-shirt videos, like and subscribe.